Cristiano Ronaldo against Lionel Messi, the biggest debate in football. On one side you have Ronaldo, 5 times Champions League winner, 5 times Ballon d'Or winner, 3 times FIFA best, Euros winner, 4 times Club World Cup winner. On the other side you have Lionel Messi, World Cup winner as we know, 7 times Ballon d'Or winner, 4 times Champions League winner, 3 times FIFA best, Copa America winner. At least that's how a lot of people view football and how players should be compared. I hate that way of comparing football. I hate the fact that people like to use comparisons like this. 5 times Champions League winner against 4 times Champions League winner, 5 times Ballon d'Or winner against 7 times World Cup winner. Oh well, this guy has a World Cup, this guy doesn't. I think this is a very toxic way to compare football, and hopefully I can explain to you why in this video, and hopefully in this video I can more importantly then tell you what I think. Hopefully you and me can come to an understanding on how we can do better as football fans to compare players, that there is a better way to compare players, because it is fun at the end of the day. People say, oh, you shouldn't compare players and just enjoy the game. Actually it is quite fun to compare players. In my opinion, it's just the way football is compared in the way that in basketball it happens as well, in American football it happens as well. The way people compare individual players in team sports is disgusting, and again we'll get into it in a second. The Ronaldo against Messi video will come very soon. This is a different type of video. This is a video where I want to talk about, yes, Ronaldo Messi of course, but mainly the way we compare the two and why it is wrong. So let's get started, guys. The main reason why I hate that way of viewing football is because it is very simple, very, very basic in a sport that is so complex. In a sport where you have 11 players against 11 players, and the objective is to outscore the other team, to simply look at team accomplishments, for example, and to look at, Ballon d'Or wins is not the right way to compare players, and it should never be. And hopefully from now on we can compare players in a better way. And now I'm going to highlight the problems with the way we debate players, and we'll go through it point for us to come to an answer or to come to an understanding. Not to have, Barcelona fans and Real Madrid fans against each other. Not to have Messi fanboys against Ronaldo fanboys and girls, of course, against each other. It should be a way for us as football fans to see who is really the better player. And the third reason is other candidates are always left out. If you think about it, when we talk about football, it's always about Ronaldo and Messi. And is it because they are the true best football players of all time? Well, yes, but also no. You can argue they're the 2 best offensive football players of all time. But as I said, football is a very complex game, and that's why this way of comparing football to me is disgusting. Players like Maldini, players like Manuel Neuer, players like Xavi, Iniesta, Zidane are always left out. And those 5 that I just named are 5 of the best football players at their positions, but they are never in these conversations. But we'll get to that in a second. And the last thing is the top 10 list, the top 5 list, your top 3 list. It just doesn't make sense to me, again, if you want to compare players properly. And now the question is, how do we solve this? How do we solve this way of comparing football? And I don't know if I have the perfect answer, but at least I have a way where because I am in debates most Mondays in the PC Footy podcast, I have to come up with a way for me to analyze players properly and to come to a fair judgment. And this is how I've been analyzing players, at least for the last few months. It can change in the future, but at least at the minute, this is how I like to do it. I like to compare the match performances. I like to look at stats, but not simply goals and assists. There are more stats than goals and assists. There are a lot of stats that you can use. So people saying, Messi scored 30 goals in 50 games this year, and Ronaldo scored 60 goals in 20 games this year, so Ronaldo is better. I don't think that's really the way to be comparing football, especially because there are more stats than those that people usually use. Goals and assists are all right to look at output, but when comparing players, there are other stats that we can use. And finally, I've become less emotional when comparing Ronaldo and Messi. When I was a kid, just a quick background story, I was born in Portugal. And that alone should kind of give you an idea of how much I love Ronaldo. And of course, growing up, I was also a Real Madrid fan and a United fan. So I was a Ronaldo fanboy, I can definitely say that. And to me, at the time when I was like 8-7 years old, you telling me that there was a player better than Ronaldo was just a waste of time. You might as well have better luck or convince me easier that Santa Claus was real than to convince me that there was a better player than Ronaldo. Ronaldo was everything to me. He was my world, and this is kind of the problem, and why we shouldn't let and that's why we shouldn't let certain people debate in football. Take the emotional side of it and look at things properly. I was talking about match performances. How do we compare match, or how do we analyze match performances? It's something I've been trying to do more in this channel, and this, for example, by looking at simply things like highlights or looking back at matches. On this channel over the past 6 months, I would like to think at least 50 reactions. It is a way for me and for you guys to analyze players properly, to not simply just look at stats. You know, stats are helpful, as I said. It is one of the ways that we can do it. But analyzing match performances is also important. And this is why I think if we were really able, or if we were really willing to use match performances as a comparison, this debate of Ronaldo and Messi wouldn't really be a debate, because there is a clear winner when you look at match performances. Again, the Ronaldo Messi video will come out soon. I don't want to make anyone angry, or I don't want to take any sides just yet, because it's not about that. If we analyze match performances, there is a clear winner. And when we're looking at a football player, yes, there may be a comparison between the two in terms of goal scoring, but when it comes to as a football player, there is a clear winner. And yeah, there are other stats that I of course use. I could bring up those stats, but it's like there's so many that you can use that me just bringing them out wouldn't do it any justice. You can look at websites like Football Reference. You can look at websites like SofaScore that have so many, or that analyze the game in such a deeper way that us as football fans can use than to simply say, oh, this guy has 50 goals and 10 assists. That's such a basic way to look at the game of football. And the point that I made before, leaving other great players out, I think is a massive mistake. Yes, Ronaldo and Messi are two offensive great players, but Ronaldo and Messi can't do what Maldini does. Maldini can't do what they do, but they also can't do what Maldini does. And this is why I think football is such a beautiful game. You have a player like Maldini, and you go around and you ask football fans. This is not for me to say that Maldini is the GOAT, for example. That's not what I'm saying. But what I'm saying is, you go and ask football fans who the greatest defender is, and I promise you that at least 70% of them will say that Maldini is the greatest football player of all time. So the greatest defender of all time. So now you have a problem here. Defending such an important part of the game is 50% of the game, and I rarely ever see Maldini in these conversations. Even a goalkeeper like Manuel Neuer, who's an amazing shot stopper, but who more importantly completely changed the game for goalkeepers and what ex-goalkeepers are expected to do. How is Neuer is never in this conversation? I'm not saying that Neuer should be the GOAT. I'm saying that he shouldn't be the GOAT, but why is he not in these conversations? Again, this video isn't about trying to find out who the GOAT is just yet. The video for that will come. It's about us asking the right questions and coming to an understanding. Why are these players not in these conversations? These are amazing players, great football players that are not in these conversations. Then you of course have Zidane, who's regarded as the greatest midfielder of all time. Then you also have Xavi and Iniesta, who for others also have those that also hold that title. The 3 greatest midfielders of all time. Again, midfielders do a lot in this game, but those 3 players, maybe Zidane at times, maybe Zidane in the past, but Xavi and Iniesta are rarely in those conversations. You know, they may be in a top 10 list or top 5 list. When it comes to the best of the best, they are rarely in those conversations. And now, playing devil's advocate here for a second, I understand Messi and Ronaldo. I understand the Messi and Ronaldo appeal, the longevity that those two have had. You know, they are great football players, and I'm not saying that those two shouldn't be 1 and 2. What I'm saying is, why do we not ever talk about those other players? You know, when we're talking about a debate of the greatest or the best football players of all time, these players should of course be included in these lists. That and the added fact that the match performances aren't really used and simple goals and assists are used, adding to the fact that stats are not really used, just goals and assists, and you kind of begin to understand the problem with the GOAT debate, and it is that it's not done properly, or that it could be done better. There is one system that I have found out. It was from the YouTuber Jimmy High Roller. Jimmy does mainly basketball content, and I think that his list, his pyramid, what he was able to come up with, is a much better way to compare players, especially in a team sport. Instead of putting players as a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, putting them in tiers of what they were able to do in their careers, putting them in tiers of their ability, and then in that case you have players. I think it would be a much better way to compare players. And when I was talking about those 5, you also have Diego Maradona, who is in those conversations, but for younger fans, it's all about Ronaldo and Messi. And again, the problem of the GOAT debate begins because football is a much more complex game than that. Let me know in the comments, of course, if you want the Ronaldo against Messi video, because I am more willing to do that. This was more of me trying to highlight and explain to you guys why I have a problem with the GOAT debate. But let me know in the comments what you think. Let me know in the comments which ways you think we can try and solve that, or come to a better understanding on how to compare the best football players that have played the game. Because at the end of the day, it is fun as football fans. We do like to look back and look at individual performances. But this is the end of the video. Guys, thank you very much for watching the video until the end. You're much appreciated. Please leave a like, please comment, subscribe, share. Do all those things to please help me grow this channel. As I said, you're much appreciated. And I'll see you guys soon.